How impressive was that performance from the Greek Freak?
First off, good morning to you all. And
it's been a minute,
you're exactly. I said last night it was the most impressive closeout game performance I have ever witnessed, and I don't know that there could be a better one. And it's not just hyperbole; it's also when you factor in how dominant he was defensively. He had 5 blocks in that game. He altered many other shots. He disrupted a lot of paint attacks by Booker and Paul. And, then the energy he had and the zone he was in, going 17 of 19 from the free throw line. And then you remember, this wasn't a game where offensively the other 2 big guns gave him a lot of help. I mean, Middleton was solid, in a game that was more defensive oriented, but you look at he and Holiday's number, they were 10 of 32 from the field. So they weren't providing the same level of consistency offensively, and it didn't matter. Giannis was just not to be denied. I just had never seen him play that well. We've seen him be a dominant force, but he was so efficient, and he made all the big shots. There had been all this narrative, and a lot of our friends in the media, well, who's Batman, who's Robin and on their team, and as if there was ever any doubt as who the most dominant player was. And I'd like to equate Giannis with I've said this to friends. Giannis is a modern day Shaq. He's that dominant in the paint. He just does it the way you have to do it today. You couldn't be Shaq the way Shaq played, 20 years ago. You'd have to be able to do it in an evolved way, and that's what Giannis is. He's physically a force. He's so much faster and stronger than most people that size, and his now IQ has grown. His ability to pass the basketball, his trust in his teammates. It was all on display last night, and he was just not to be denied, nor was he going to allow Milwaukee to be denied from the glory of winning that championship after 50 years.
Greg, what happens when somebody wins a championship a certain way, kind of organically homegrown, fracking takes place, right? That means everybody else starts saying, okay, how did they do it? Let's break it down. Maybe we can emulate that, right? And I listened to some of the comments of Dame Lillard out there in Portland. Is this maybe the blueprint for them to take advantage of their great player, push all the chips in, and surround him with the Drew Holidays or whatever that would equate to in Portland?
Listen, it can happen, but in reality, this didn't happen overnight. I don't think that Damian Lillard's going to have another 6-7 years before someone evolves into what we saw with Chris Middleton, right? Chris Middleton went from being a second-round pick, guy who was playing in the developmental league, to now being a world champion, an all-star, and a potential gold medalist in the Olympics as he's made that team. So their journey has been organic in that regard. But even in that regard, they still had to make a monster deal to go out and get in Drew Holiday. While Drew might not make an all-NBA team, he's as good as any guard playing in terms of how he can impact the game. And so they had to go out and make moves. They had to go out and get P.J. Tucker, who, while he didn't score a point last night, he was incredible, as he has been this entire series. So I guess sometimes we need something to talk about. But the reality is Milwaukee had been a disappointment in the postseason the last 2 years. They'd had the best record in the league, but it wasn't good enough. They still had to go out and not only make moves, but make the right moves, and that's what they were able to do. You tip your hat to them. It is impressive that for a young man who came into the league as a 15th pick, who, by all accounts, everyone thought was a project. Not only did no one project him or foresee him becoming a great player, there were a lot of people who didn't know if he would make it. Not just become a good player, if he would even last in the league. And to see him turn into what he has is a testament to his greatness, more so than any organization. Because all these teams, and on every level, at every sport, they provide the wherewithal for you to develop into something special. But it only happens if it's inside of you. And that's what's brilliant about Giannis and what he's been able to do. And just like everybody, when you win a championship, you need some good fortune, right? Remember, this team was down 2-0 twice this postseason, down 1-0 in another series. They had to face the demon of a team that beat them last year, shockingly, in the Miami Heat in the first round. So they had to go through a lot to get to this point, and they were deserving. I mean, Phoenix put up a great battle, and a lot of people talked about or discounting Phoenix now as if they weren't a great team. Chris Paul played, I thought, had a terrific series. This was a challenging series for them because they didn't have the athleticism, to match up or the physicality to match up. But that young group put forth a great effort. It was a great fight by them. Giannis and company were just too much, and as they built momentum and got more of a rhythm for how they had to play, it was just impressive to watch. And remember, I said this, Giannis is younger to get to his first title than both LeBron and Michael Jordan.
Good point.
And the way he played last night, people would complain about, if he needs to make free throws. And I said, God forbid he starts making free throws.
And look what he did last night.
There's no answer for him if he can make free throws. That guy was 17 of 19 last night. There's just nothing you can do with Giannis if he can become that proficient at the free throw line.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.